All right, welcome back, everyone. So, we are now recapping week number 4. 4 weeks gone by already. Absolutely crazy. So, Houston Homestead is done in the books. Honestly, crowd wise, might have been the best Homestead yet. Washington's also up there, and New York was very good as well. But Houston fans just went absolutely wild, especially when they won their last match. But yeah, I thought it was a good Homestead. Um, as you can see, had a decent amount of 3-0s, but there were a couple of very interesting things. A couple of things that I kind of want to focus on. But next week we're going back to Washington. Um, as you can see, 6 matches. Still no word on what's happening with the teams that are going to be in China/Korea. Do not know when those games are getting how and when those games are getting um, played because some of those teams they still have yet to play a single match. So it is it's going to be very interesting to see, especially since there are teams that did play a couple of matches or like one, like San Francisco, Gladiators, and Vancouver. They played in week 1 and now they haven't played since. So very interesting. Also, the other big thing to talk about going forward for week 5, first week of hero bans. So if you guys didn't see, Reinhardt was picked for tank, so Reinhardt will not be playable during week 5. Neither for DPS, McCree and Widow will not be available, so the 2 hit scans that have been used this season are not available. And for support, Moira, who's seen a little bit of play, but it's predominantly Lucio Ana, so I don't see that having too much of an impact. But the Reinhardt, it's big. We've seen a lot of Reinhardt. And then obviously McCree we've seen a lot of, and Widow we've seen a decent amount of as well. So it's definitely going to shake up the way that comps are played. I'm just praying that please not Arisa Sigma Reaper May. Please no. Some people are like, oh, it's going to be all May. Some people are like, no, May's not going to be played because one of the main reasons she's played is as a combo with Reinhardt, and with Reinhardt not being available, then she won't play. She won't be played. But honestly, I don't know. I'm not sure. I hope that the second group of people are correct, and it's not a lot of May play, but who knows? We may see Winston with the Diva. I have a feeling we're going to see at least some Marisa, if not a lot of her. But yeah, very interesting first week of hero bans. But we'll talk about that a little bit as we go further into the week, as we get to the predictions. For this video, I want to focus on week number 4. So as you can see, a lot of blowouts, especially early on. New York handled Florida. No big shock there. Atlanta, I thought they would win, but I thought it would be a close match with Defiant. Defiant just flat out didn't show up this entire weekend and looked horrible. So Atlanta cleaned them up with some fucking Torb action. And they got Baby Bay and then pounding their chests, saying how good they were. And then we all know how their second match went for them. So we had London edge Houston. I really thought Houston was going to find a way to edge that map out, but they just cannot win map 5s. During the 3 seasons that they've been in the league, the organization just cannot win map 5s. I don't know what it is, but control is not their thing. Philly had another easy victory against Boston. They still haven't played a real team. Um, I mean, what's the best team they've played? Toronto, who lost to Houston this week. Who else have they beaten? They beat New York. It's New York. You can't put so much stock into New York. They're an enigma of a team. So then we had Paris. Pretty much. I mean, they took care of Atlanta. It was as someone who is a Defiant fan and someone that doesn't really like, and this is unfair of me, but ever since DeFran retired, Atlanta's just dead to me. I just don't care. I don't care about them. They're a very very good team, but Um, with when you're starting Baby Bay, I honestly don't believe a team that starts Baby Bay can win a championship. I don't think they can win at all. He's just not that good. He really isn't. Like when you talk about a lot of that team, Pokepo has been extremely good. Hawk has been amazing coming in from contenders. Gator's been really good when he's played. Um, the support lines perform well too, except Dogman was getting absolutely slaughtered on Ana. I, I felt like the man was dying like as he walked out of spawn. So that could be a little area of concern as well. And then obviously Erster is insane. They've got Edison as well. But just when you're starting Baby Bay, I saw all I needed to see out of him the first two seasons. Good player, Overwatch League caliber, sure. But is he a starter on a championship winning team? The answer for me is no. Clearly no. I mean, he was feeding on Reaper in last season's playoffs. He fed hard. If you're feeding on Reaper, I have no confidence you can play a really good McCree. So some issues for Atlanta for sure, even though they're still going to be a very strong team. Um, and then London edged out Florida. Again, Florida, just, I'm out on them. I'm getting to the point where I've seen what I need to see from them. And then Houston did get a big victory against a Defiance. Do I think they'll turn it around to become a playoff team? Absolutely not. Houston still has very legitimate problems. I still think they're going to be towards the very bottom of the league in the standings. But I mean, it's nice for them that they got a win. Um, for me, that clinches. We will not have a winless team this season. None of the teams that haven't played yet are gonna go 0-28. No way. Like Gladiators are 0-1. They're gonna win a lot of matches. So, I don't believe we're gonna have any teams, even teams that are like 3-25. I don't see that. I think even the lowest teams are gonna get to like 6 or 7. Um, but for one big takeaway for me, I really I'm not sold on any of the teams that have played all these matches. So let's go over to the standings for a little bit. So everyone is full. It seems like most people are full aboard. They're on driving that Philly bandwagon, and Philly's a really good team. Still not sold on them. I'm just not. I think mostly the one thing has been Alarm. Alarm is absolutely as good as advertised. Um, so that's a huge thing for them. That's something that they didn't have. With all due respect to Boombox in the first two seasons, he's just not the caliber player that Alarm is. So that's one thing that's like really good for Philly. But in this meta, I'm still not sold on their DPS duo. Carpe has had some really good matches, but when you really look at it and go into the film, he is getting an absolutely ridiculous amount of resources. So if he doesn't absolutely pop off, which on some maps he hasn't, they are very vulnerable in those maps. And it's kind of the similar thing with the main tank Sato. He's getting so many resources, like they're just pooling them all into those two. And they had guys like Poco playing so well and not really taking damage that it just translated to rolling forward. And then Ivy's had really good placement on his May walls, but this meta isn't going to stick the whole year. I still think this team has questions. So while they are clearly a top 6 team, I don't see them as just like the best team right now. I think if they played the Titans, they played the Shock, I think they would still lose. Like I said in like week 2. Same thing with the Gladiators. And there's teams that could easily surpass them too, if like depending. Teams like Hanzhou, Guangzhou, Shanghai, and Seoul, they're all talented enough for sure. Chengdu not as much, but um, are they a very good team? Yes, but I need to see him. I need to see him against these heavy hitters. I just need to. 3-0ing Boston just isn't impressive for a team that's shooting for winning it all. So New York, it's the same old problems. It's the same old issues for me. Are they going to perform when it matters most? Can they really get the right combination of DPS? For all of the good DPS players that they have on that team, it just feels like they can never quite get it together. Not quite. Paris is a team they're coming. Like, Seriously, they have been extremely impressive to me. Their last couple of matches, and they're only getting stronger. So, but I mean, you got London's at 3-2. Do I think they're gonna even make the playoffs? No, no way. There's just no way. So the teams that have played the 14 teams, or sorry, 15 now, the 15 teams that have been in action, like, and the ones that have been in action the most, not counting Gladiators, Titans, and Shock because they've only played a couple of matches. But these teams that are at 4 or 5, I'm not sold on any of them. So let me know what you guys think about that. Do I have people completely sold on Philly? Um, I mean, like I said, at Atlanta, they were, oh man, they were just kings of the world after they swept Toronto. They were feeling themselves. Baby Bay, the whole crew, they're feeling it, talking a bunch of trash, and then Paris beats you handily. Like the match was not that close. It was a 3-1, and it very well could have been a 3-0. Atlanta barely capped out in OT to win the third map. So, am I sold on them? No, no, I'm not for the reasons I had said earlier. And then teams that I had towards the top 10, Washington and Toronto, they're both 1-3. They've been pretty disappointing. So it's really up for grabs. I really need to see the other teams in action. They got to find out a way to get in the next week or two. They got to get these teams going. It's just bizarre to have a league where you know how it was structured the last 2 seasons, and then you have it this year where Phillies played 5, and there's a bunch that have played 0. Gladiators 1. San Francisco 1. Like I understand the issues they have with scheduling, with all the travel now. Like, don't get me wrong, I understand all of that. It's just, I'm sure it's super super frustrating for those teams who haven't played yet. So we'll see going forward, but in my opinion, it's still wide open. It's absolutely wide open. It's going to be really interesting to see Titans and Shock play their next matches because when they were playing, the meta wasn't like as set in stone as it is now. So, and especially with hero bans now, that introduces a whole new element to the game. So, it's going to be an extremely interesting week moving forward. Um, but yeah, that was definitely the number one takeaway for me. It's just Philly's the best of all these teams that have played, but I think we're going to have a lot of the top tier teams that make the playoffs have not played a game yet. So, um, and if you do look forward to week 5, Justice Homestead, it's the same thing. It's because all of those other teams were supposed to be playing in China and then Korea, both got nixed, obviously. So we're going to be seeing a lot more of the same. But at least it's interesting that especially after like this week, and then when you go to week 6, it's the same thing in Florida. We're gonna be seeing a lot of these teams in action, like obviously Florida, Spitfire, Justice, Toronto, Paris, Philly, a bit of New York and Atlanta as well. So we will. I feel like by the end of week 6, we're really going to have it established, kind of that hierarchy, and then hopefully like I said, in these next couple of weeks, we're going to start getting some of the other matches. But like I said, I have not heard on what's happening with that quite yet. So other than that, I didn't really have too many big like takeaways from this week. Like I said, obviously disappointing by Toronto. Um, Paris was impressive. London was able to clutch out 2 victories, which is always a good sign for a young team when you can find a way to win those close matches, even if they didn't beat the best opponents. Um, but yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of shifting around in these standings going over the next few weeks. But let me know what you guys think. Was there anything big that stood out to you? Um, Anything from meta wise to certain teams you think like if there's something small holding them back or something big, like a team like Toronto, I felt like it was just overall coordination. Alt usage was pretty freaking rough this week for them. um, but it's it's different for every team. Houston's starting to click a little bit. Honestly, if I had to go with the most impressive player of the entire week, is probably be Meko. Meko was decent the first 4 weeks, but he was just kind of decent, which is not the standard that he had when he was playing on New York. But this week he was incredible. He ate so many alts. He was getting kills with every single bomb, getting just a ton of value out of the character, not getting demeched often. So he was definitely impressive for me. But Houston, they're still a bottom tier team for sure. But it was a fun weekend. I was glad to catch the matches I did. I had to watch VODs for a decent amount of them, but you could feel that fucking crowd energy. But that being said, that's going to wrap up this video. Again, let me know what you guys think. Was there anything really that stood out to you guys in week 4? Because for me, there really wasn't that much. A lot of it was expected, with a couple of disappointments and a couple of, oh wow, they did good. Um, so, as always, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have yourselves a wonderful week,